Yep, yeah, for sure. So we'll move on to the actual teams that are definitely going to be on the grid starting in Australia, or at least we assume so. First of which being Sauber, who obviously are coming off their worst year ever, I think. Um,
Yep.
Yeah, is it the only year they've not scored points,
is
or
that true,
in
Miko?
I
quite
believe
some
so.
years at least?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think they scored points even their first year. I was going through watching old season reviews and stuff, and their first year they just had like an all black car with with no sponsorship on it whatsoever, and that was back in the days where you had to get finish in the top six to get points, and I'm pretty sure they scored points in their inaugural year.
Oh,
So
really? Wow. Okay.
yeah, so I think yeah, it's Sauber's worst year was 2014. It sounds like Miko has can confirm that as well. But they're already looking a little bit better this year based on testing, if you ask me anyway. Also, Felipe Nasr, I think, is a driver for the future for sure. Obviously, he's not. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's not like a pay driver. He's sort of like a Sergio Perez, where he brings sponsorship. Like he doesn't have cash himself, but he's actually bringing the Banco de Brazil sponsorship to Sauber. Hence the livery change, of course.
Yeah, I think you're right in that. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I have to say,
yeah.
on sponsorship, there's barely any other sponsorship logos on the car. I mean, it has the Banco de Brazil, and then I think another Swiss firm, Ericsson, and there's barely anything else. It's really fun, and
Yeah.
I think they still have the Chelsea football
Oh, yeah, they
team
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
sponsorship, yeah, on the front. But besides those, it's really, you can see that the poor last season really hurt them in
Yeah.
terms of
I'm not a football
sponsorship.
supporter, so I don't know what Chelsea have got on their chest. But is that it's probably more of a joint marketing campaign that rather than Chelsea paying them. Is there a Sauber logo on the
Yeah.
Chelsea kit? Do we know? Or somewhere on the Chelsea print, or whatever? Because that would make more sense, just to kind of get some football fans to F1 and some F1
Certainly,
fans
I
to
don't know.
football. Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. But yeah, just look at the points as well. You are right, Justin. They did score a point in every single season since 1993. They've been competing, and they scored a point. Like I say, even back in the days when there was less points available, they did score
Yeah.
a point in every single season, barring last. But yeah, go back to the sponsors. Like, yeah, it's pretty diabolical. Their car only, like I said before, even with two Pasta Maldonados, that's not enough to pay for a team. So just one or two sponsors isn't enough. The problem with a private team, obviously, I don't know how much money Peter Sauber's got in the bank, but he probably can't afford to run it on his own for too long. So they do need to find some substantial backing. And I actually wrote in my blog that I can't see them even getting to next year unless they find some serious sponsors, make some big changes, because it's just, they're basically Marussia now, aren't they? They're at the back, so no one really is interested in investing in them, as I mentioned before, and
Mhm.
and they're just the car's going to get worse and worse. They have to shrink their budget, and I can't see them making the grid next year unless they make big changes.
And of course, they're using they're the only other team besides Ferrari that's still using the Ferrari power plant, right?
Yeah,
If I'm
that's
not
right.
mistaken.
Yeah, they're the only
Yeah.
customer team. Yeah.
Yeah, because Marussia left, and they were the only other Ferrari customer, or for the engines for the power plants. So, if Ferrari didn't make some serious gains, which, to be fair, and we'll touch on Ferrari in a little bit, but it does appear that they've made some pretty serious gains. They've definitely appeared to be a little bit more competitive this year versus last year, just based off of the 4 days of testing that we have.
Don't you think it's a bit convenient that both Ferrari cars have been also the cars that are topping the timesheets, and it's only the Ferrari cars that are doing that? And also in practice, a lot of the time, Ferrari tends to run lighter fuel than the rest of the teams. Ferrari is very much a glory run team, so it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Ferrari, we'll get into them in a bit. Obviously, I think they've been glory running, and it wouldn't surprise me if instead Sauber, to get a bit of promotion. They're probably doing it for their own sponsorship as well, but wouldn't surprise me if Ferrari said to them, look, run a bit more power to make us look better in testing. Because we're Ferrari, the might of Ferrari, we can't be seen to be slow, sort of thing. Whereas if they're top in testing, that makes headlines, doesn't it? Or, all Ferrari engines.
And it did.
It did, exactly, it did.
Yep.
And like I say, it helps Sauber as well, obviously, with the sponsorship thing. It grabs a few, it grabs some attention anyway.
Yeah,
You could see in the speed traps still, I think all Ferrari powered cars are still pretty much down, at least compared to Mercedes.
Yeah,
Even though they have clawed back some some of the power deficit.
Speed trap, I'm just trying to get it up now.
They are still.
Yeah, I've got it here. The speed trap thing's interesting because so the top was 307 by Williams and Mercedes. They did basically the same thing. Pastorado and Mercedes just behind 306, and then Ferrari cars were down 303 and 300. So it's not a lot, but when you consider they were also they were the fastest cars around the circuit all week, so that they must have been on half decent like power settings to be fastest.
I think Lewis Hamilton even specifically said in an interview they're running less fuel than us.
Yeah,
they're running a much lighter car.
Mercedes are probably running full tanks all week.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Because I think Mercedes are taking the exact opposite approach, where they're trying to hide their speed rather than flaunt their speed, so that maybe they can create a little bit of complacency in the teams. They're like, oh hey, look, we're not so far off this year.
Yeah, I mean, we get off the Sauber topic a bit, aren't we? But
we did.
Going back to Sauber. So yeah, I think they have more or less been glory running. They've been running higher engine modes, lower fuel, and the two drivers said different things on different days. I noticed. I've not got the quotes here, but one of them said they sort of said how much fuel, and he sort of said, well, there's a bit more margin there, as in we were pretty low in fuel. Probably 20 kilos or something, really, relatively light. And then the other driver the next day said, oh no, there's loads of margin left in. Oh, we got plenty, and implied that it were running quite a lot of fuel. So one of them's lying, and I don't know which one, because they had very similar lap times as well. So unless one of the drivers is a lot better than the other, one of them was lying. So
that might be the case.
They were probably quite low on fuel.
And that was the next point I was going to bring up. I mean, to me, it seems like Nasr is probably just gonna blow Ericsson out of the water. I mean, he's probably gonna dominate him this season. I mean, Ericsson really just didn't impress all that much last year, and Nasr finished second place in GP2. He's also shown that he's able to manage the Pirelli tires in GP2 as well as Nasr. You don't follow GP2 all that much, do you, Alex?
I don't know, but am I right in thinking that Nasr's been in GP2 for quite a few seasons?
Has he?
That might be.
I think at least 2. Yeah, and I forget my point.
Well, what do you, I mean,
GP2 for 3 years, so that's quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So and I finished third last season in GP2 actually, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, he did.
I assume it's right. But I mean, 3 years. So yeah, all right. It wasn't perhaps in the best team, but he was in Carlin for 2013 and 2014, and I don't follow it closely, so I don't know if they made massive improvements. Not that there's huge improvements to be had, but
right.
I mean, that was more a case of learning the sport, whereas the greats like Lewis Hamilton come in and win it, then leave. One season and they've won the championship and then they leave. That's what the greats do. Whereas Felipe Nasr took three seasons to get to third.
Yeah,
so,
that is true.
He's got a good record, but he also took a while to get that record. So I think you get what you in a backwards way, you get what you pay for with a paid driver, and you get a pretty good driver. But at the end of the day, if you have to pay a team to give you a drive, you're probably not that great at driving. Yeah, I realise Lewis Hamilton.
It was still a different time. I think when Rosberg got into GP2, it was the first season, and when Lewis won it, it was the second season of GP2.
Yeah.
So you can't really compare it one for one. But
that's true, but then look at again, we're getting a bit off topic. Look at, is it Max Verstappen? Is it that 17-year-old? So he the supposedly ultra competitive, was it Formula 3.5 or something like that? When it ran out 3.5, I think.
Formula 3.
Yeah, and he didn't win the title, but he was getting race wins. He came a very close second, I think he did. So
yeah.
I mean, that's also supposed to be an ultra competitive, well established formula, and he came in and did that. So I mean, if you've got amazing talent, it will show through, I think. And yeah, it's hard to compare Hamilton and stuff, but I can't see Nasr or Ericsson really being that amazing. I mean, it's hard to quantify, but it would be, I would say, as much as half a second a lap compared to someone like Hamilton or Alonso. So, compared to some of the top guys. Which to me is like, is it worth it? Like, how many millions would it cost you to get half a second a lap? Like, a lot. and then but then also the fact that obviously they might crash and not finish races. Well, again, if you get a decent driver, he will probably finish more races for you. So if you're in the points and then this guy crashes at Monaco, you've got no points. Whereas if you've got a guy that's a bit faster and he's less likely to crash, to me that's a bit of a no-brainer. But it's now got to a time in Formula One where you haven't really got a choice, have you? You need money or you will go bankrupt. So they have to take on paid drivers regardless of pace. They're not really surviving they're not really racing to be fast anymore. They're racing to survive, which isn't really a nice way to run a supposedly racing team, is it?
Nope. Nope, not at all. I still think Nasr's probably going to have the upper hand on Ericsson. Just from what I've seen of the two of them. Obviously, we got to see Ericsson last year in Formula One.
But exactly on maybe on raw talent he might be ahead, but then Ericsson's also got a season of these complicated cars under his belt. So I think initially it'd be close to Ericsson will have a hand on him, whatever. Then I think probably towards the end of the season, Nasr will start being up there.
Yep.
But I think Nasr, he tested the Williams for at least a couple of
That's true.
practices.
Yeah, he did drive the 2014 Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, at least in Brazil, and I think a bunch more races in free practice. One.
Yeah, I think it was
in Valtteri Bottas's car.
Yeah, Bottas sat out and he took over, which was funny because Bottas was taking over for Bruno Senna when he was driving for Williams. So now he kind of knows how that feels.
It's a big difference, obviously even ignoring the whole race situation, qualifying, pressure, all that sort of thing. Regardless, Ericsson still had a lot more mileage in the car and a lot more experience. So he's had a bit, but he'd also get a bit in testing. So yeah, I don't think that'll make a huge difference really, to be honest, from what he's had.